Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Welcome to the show, Randy Winter from Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Thanks for coming, man.
Hello.
Dude, tell me about this. You just told me you're in a tiny house van that you're traveling in, not a tour bus?
Yeah, we have three sprinters. The guys, they split up in the other two, and then my wife and baby, they travel with me, and it's decked out like a tiny house inside, parallel storage up top. I just put a new tankless hot water heater in there, a sink, a bath, a shower, a range, and queen size orthopedic mattress, and I also put 6 kilowatts of solar in too.
Did you do all that by yourself?
No, a lot of that was done in Colorado. It was modded out there. I did pretty much the solar stuff, and then
Cool.
other modifications like the tankless hot water that I was talking about, and
Sure.
yeah, just kind of here and there what we didn't like, or you know how it is, like when you buy a house, you want to do stuff,
Yeah,
you do your own thing, and you end up repainting everything, and adding whatever. It's kind of like that.
When did you guys decide to do that? I mean, you couldn't have been bringing your family on tours for, what is it? You guys have been a band 18 years or something now?
Yeah.
Like forever?
Well, really, right when the I refer to it as the meltdown in 2020 happened.
Yeah.
We kind of were talking about the situation with my brother, our singer Ronnie, and we were just kind of, just creatively talking about different ideas moving forward with the touring. After we released the Emergency EP, and we're talking about, well, hey, why don't we get like an RV or something? So Erin and I, my wife, started kind of scouting around, and she found it actually. We had actually gone out to South Carolina to look at something else, and it was like total jalopy. We were kind of disappointed, but we weren't going to like settle for something we didn't like. We wanted to get it just because we thought that might be all we could find. But we just didn't settle for it. We got a hotel for the night, and we're like, all right, well, I guess, it's just not meant to be, and God will send us what he wants when it's time. And we packed up in the morning and head home. And then on the way home, she was like, I just found one that is literally what we've been looking for in Jacksonville Beach, 45 minutes from where we live. So we went and checked it out. I test drove it, and we bought it right then.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big difference from having the tour bus. Did the other guys hop on and buy their own kind of right away after that because they were all jealous, or what was the situation?
Well, no, we're all just kind of in different boats in different stages. Like Josh, he's the only one of us that doesn't have a child. All the rest of us do, but they're all at different ages.
Yeah.
Joey's is the oldest, so like I don't even know if she would want to be on tour, Ella. And then of course John, that's newborn, so I don't know if he would either.
Sure.
And Wolfie, he's my brother's son. He's kind of like just getting into the beginning stages of like school, so he's really actually excited about it and fired up, and he's definitely like a extrovert. He loves to be out with people and like doing stuff, so I don't think he would probably like it right now either. But for Stella, that's all she's really known. She started touring with us when she was 3 months old.
Oh, sure.
Right.
So how old is she now?
Like they kind of tell you, like break them in, the way you want them to be. My wife was a nanny for almost 20 years before, we had our own baby. So like she kind of already learned like, hey, what works, what doesn't, what are the myths, what, did your elders tell you that really, really sticks and stuff like that. So that was one of the things we're like, all right, we need to make sure that we take her out and try to we decided, you know what, everything's getting crazy. Let's just stick together. So that's because remember, in context, this was right in the middle of the meltdown in 2020. So
right.
At the end there, at the end of 2020 is, or early 2021 is when we picked it up. And so we just decided, you know what, we're just going to stick together. And it's just been like super awesome. It's hard to describe the level of peace that you get when like you're driving and you just know that your wife and baby are behind you, like sleeping in a bunk, chilling,
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard to say. Like, I don't know.
It's a whole team then, right? I mean, versus before traveling alone. I know a lot of people I know that travel for work, whether they're musicians or whatever, a lot of times their partners and families can't come with. And that, you know, at first when you start touring, it's exciting to see all these different places around the country, around the world.
Right.
But then when you're constantly leaving your family, it kind of loses its luster a little bit. But when you can bring them with, that changes the game completely.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what occurs. Like you get really fired up about it at first, and then you start to get kind of like just homesick every time.
Yeah.
So like what we started doing is we started deciding, you know what, the best tour days are always on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are kind of dead nights, more like when Service Industry goes out. So we're like, not to say that those aren't good nights, but the best nights are always those 4 nights for sure, if you were to pick out a 7. So we decided, let's just only tour on those days. And my brother, our singer Ronnie, he flies back home on either Sunday night, he'll catch a red eye, or Monday, and he goes and stays with his family and flies back. And so he's, filling that void that way. And the rest of the guys, they'll go back home sometimes. Sometimes they'll stay. It really depends on what's going on. Like if there's like 2 weeks off and we're in Wisconsin and the next show's in Pennsylvania, my wife and our baby Stella and me, we won't go home. We'll just drive from Wisconsin to Pennsylvania and take our time and check out all the different, places.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different. All the things that you want to stop and look at, you can.
Right.
Before it's like you have a tour manager who's doing his job, which means he's keeping everybody in line because there's a schedule and a very meticulous itinerary that has to be maintained on a business level. So that's
Right.
where a lot of people don't realize, like, this is a business, and if you treat it that way, then you'll be able to at least break even, and then hopefully at the end of the day be able to live within your means. But if you're not treating it like a business, then it's just not going to work out whatsoever, and it's going to be an epic fail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the talent and then there's the work ethic. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is they see the one song like Face Down go nuts and they think that, oh, they just got lucky because this thing popped off. But they don't see anything that led up to it. They don't see anything behind that made that continue to grow and continue to work after all these years. Talking about that, you guys have some new music, right? The last time you came out with something, was it the Emergency EP in 2020?
That was the last album release. But to touch on what you were just saying, um, what what really for us started to become evident is we started thinking about the music business like we did construction, because my brother and I, we did construction before music paid the bills. And we started thinking, if you just treat everything like a straight business model, then you'll be able to, survive. So that's why we stopped like leasing buses. Like, I mean, you can buy one, but people don't realize like those things are actually designed to run. If they're not running, then they don't do well. They don't do well sitting. So a lot of bands, if they even do buy them, they'll actually have them for lease when they're not on tour to make sure it keeps running. And it's just, that's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, we did actually record the Emergency EP in 2019 before the meltdown. Oddly, even though it was called the Emergency EP about the specific situation, and then it came out perfectly right in the middle of the fiasco. And then
Yeah.
after that, we decided, well, that's cool. We already have this to roll out since we can't tour. What else in the back catalog do we have? So I went through like all drives and stuff, and then I started looking at the orchestral arrangements that I had done with various songs on different albums that we have, um, and most of them were from the first debut album, "Don't You Fake It." And we decided, you know what, let's take a further look at this. So I opened all those back up, those sessions. We have 3 engineers and producers in our band too, so um, we're pretty prolific when it comes to just sending sessions back and forth. It's just kind of constantly going back and forth. But um, so I opened those drives and checked it out and shot that over to Ronnie, and he tested it on Twitch, and immediately everybody just started freaking out because they're hearing a song for the first time, in a different way. More so, actually, the way it was originally when Ronnie by himself would just sit around while we're all partying at a campfire, and playing an acoustic, and it was just his voice and him. So that's really what I was trying to do, is bring it back to like the structure of the actual music, and then let Ronnie really be heard for the first time. It's different when you have all these guitars and like bass and the cymbals and all that. It's really loud. And
Yeah.
if you're in a live environment where the mixer doesn't have a lot of experience, you'll have, people just complaining the whole time, like, we can't hear the vocal, turn it up. It's like, we're not the person on the mixing board. I'm sorry, like,
Right.
we realize that too. But in this situation, it's really cool because it's a demographic transcender. Older and younger people like it, and um, the older may not have less liked, the heavier version with scream in it, and this is different because now they can resonate on the same thing. So that's really what I'm saying. It's a demographic transcender. I think we're going to be releasing that either first quarter of next year, maybe later. I'm not sure. It's done. Um, it's it's unbelievably, like, just mind blowing when you hear it. It like
Yeah.
gives you the goosebumps. It'll make you shed a tear. It's just, I spent a lot of time on it, years and years. Whenever I was at home, if I wasn't mixing or mastering or producing somebody, that's what I did on my downtime. I'd work on orchestral arrangements and with different things, and I fine tuned that ability, and acquired quite a vast library of pre-recorded ensembles with like the best amps at the best studios with the best acoustics, better than you could literally go and hire somebody, and unless you have that money, those resources to
Right.
do that. I bought these libraries, and just kept acquiring them. So I got like just what I really, really liked in every element. So like what you'll hear in these arrangements is you'll hear piano, um, you'll hear like light brass, flutes, um, oboes, clarinet, and I mean it's there. Quartet, string quartet, it sounds super, super sick. That was probably what I spent the most time on. And then on top of that, it's almost like the acoustics are an addition. That's what's
Yeah.
going to be interesting that people notice. Like right off the bat, when you hear Face Down Symphonic, you'll notice it's not an acoustic song. A lot of people are like, oh, the acoustic version. No, right out when it starts, there is no guitar playing whatsoever or bass. It's just a string quartet and piano. So like that's kind of the point, to attract to like the people that listen to like NPR, the older people that are into like the orchestral arrangement. Not to stereotype that's the demographic that only
Right.
listens to it, because I've listened to that kind of stuff as long as I can remember, since I was like 10, when I found a CD with Rain and Thunder in the background, and Mozart, and was just like blown away on how mesmerizing it was and captivating. So that's what I'm most excited about, actually, as we're moving forward into the future, is people really getting to hear the music that way for the first time, and mostly Ronnie's voice. It's going to be just so much further out in the mix where you can hear everything that he's saying.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was listening to other interviews with him, and I guess I didn't realize that he wrote all of the lyrics for every song pretty much essentially from the beginning. And it's cool to be able to take something from that long ago and come at it with new technology, with a fresh mind after all these years of touring, knowing what works, what doesn't work, and being able to present something, that essentially has the same bones from the beginning with the lyrics, but presenting it in a completely different way. And I think it's going to be something a lot of people are excited about, and it works with other people too. I've seen like stripped down versions of songs and whatnot, and they tend to do really well. I think it'll be cool for people. Technology changes, and obviously that opens up opportunities for things like that to do different things. How has it changed with you guys touring as far as the actual performances? Because I know people are excited to see you on Saturday for Reverb Festival. That's why we're talking in Eau Claire. How does the performance aspect, how has that changed over the years from earlier on to now, as far as, you know what I mean, the technology involved, what you play, all that?
I mean, for us, as far as like technology goes, it's always been a part. Just, um, I mean, we've always had a lot of technological influence. The metal band, we were in like a post metalcore. I don't even know what you would call it nowadays, if it's changed names or whatever. But I would call it more of like a post hardcore band before this, and it had a lot of effects, electronic effects, kind of like Linkin Park. And we've had, this is band number 4, so we did a lot of trial and error to get where we are. It wasn't easy whatsoever, and there's a lot of metaphorical scars. But what I would say we did is we fine tuned it. So like right out the gate, we put a lot of electronic stuff in there. We just actually kind of like sprinkled it. So going forward, when we bring it back, it's not foreign, including strings and piano and things like that. So what has changed live, though, to get back to what you initially asked, the technology aspect on that, it changed from lugging a desktop out onto the stage to lugging a MacBook Air that weighs, as much as your wallet. That's a huge difference for sure. But there are flaws too. If someone throws a water bottle, a desktop survives that. A laptop depends on which angle it hit.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as like interfaces and stuff like that, like I said before, we have 3 engineers in the band, and we've pretty much always been on top of that kind of the threshold and what's coming out as far as like it's USB, now it's Firewire 400, now it's 800, now it's Thunderbolt. Like we've just always been involved with the engineering aspect of production. So like really, because I mean you just have to eventually. If you don't, you're missing out. You're going to lose a lot of creative control. But if you get involved with the production, you start to learn everything, and it's fun. It's a passion that you can pursue. Sometimes you'll run into issues with like latency and stuff like that, but those are easily solved. You just have to like use less, and then it works.
Yeah. Well, over time, I mean, when you've been doing it for so long, a lot of people tend to plateau. Like you're talking about latency, you plateau at a certain space where you're like, man, we've reached all this success, and I understand how to play this instrument and how to perform and all that. And then you're reaching for like, well, so what's next then? What's the next
Right.
area? And
Well,
obviously, like jumping into engineering and stuff is one of those that there's unlimited growth for that.
exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, it's about the design of the craft. From the beginning, we really pretty much put out like you're always going to hear a taste of something on Don't You Fake It on every album moving forward. Sometimes it's more on the electronic aspects, sometimes it's more on the orchestral aspects, sometimes it's more on the ballads, sometimes it's more on the heavy, sometimes it's more on the screaming. But if you can't find it on Don't You Fake It, our first album, then it's not on any of our other albums.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, brand identity, that transfers not just as far as like the branding when you look at the colors and the fonts and that stuff, but really the sound of the music and everything else with it. And the people that loved you guys from the beginning, they got to have a little bit sprinkled that continues on for it if you want them to still think you guys are the same band. You evolve, but you still want to be the same band.
Right.
So,
Yeah. You evolve, and then your fans evolve with you. It's a fun
right.
journey
Yeah,
for everyone.
exactly. Yeah, you're not singing to the same people that you were, 18 years ago.
Yeah. In fact, it's their kids. That's what we've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Their
it's going to be
kids.
fun here
Yeah.
in,
It's
here
them
in Eau
and their
Claire.
children out there, and it's super cool to see that full circle happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I got 2 kids myself. They're 7 and 10, so I know exactly where you're at. But
Yeah.
it'll be fun. You guys are coming to Eau Claire. I
7
think
and
this is the
10.
first.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think this is the first time you guys are coming to Eau Claire because it's a new music festival that you're coming for on Saturday called Reverb. And I
Right.
think we have 7 bands that are performing. So have you come to Wisconsin a lot? Have you been through the
Yeah.
area? What are you
Yeah.
excited about for this festival?
Yeah. I mean, we're through that area. I mean, I'd say several times a year for sure.
Through like Milwaukee, Minneapolis, or where have you been?
The last festival that we did there, actually, I think was in Oshkosh.
Oh, okay, cool.
But other than that, it's like just shows, regular, not festivals,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
like a regular concert. But what we tend to do is we'll do festivals, but we've kind of figured out we like more of the intimate vibe. Whenever you
Sure.
have like that separation, it's like it's just you can see it actually on the fan's face, and like it takes a toll on your psychological state, which usually you don't show as an artist when you're playing. So like you probably won't notice it because we we professionally practice and rehearse to make sure that that doesn't show. But psychologically, you can feel the disconnect. So we try to really do festivals and intimate venues primarily.
Yeah. Well, festivals are a little different, right? Because, for instance, with Reverb, there's All Time Low, Plain White Tee, Charlotte Sands. There's all these other bands, and it's hard to know who is there for those bands, specifically, who's there
Right.
for your band specifically, how much interest. Obviously, there's going to be cross between them, you know what I
Right.
mean? But they're not necessarily there specifically to see Red Jumpsuit. So I know they're going to see it and they're going to be stoked anyways, but it's not quite the same as somebody who went specifically to see you guys that knows all the lyrics from every song. You know what I mean?
Right. But the organizers usually are pretty wise when it comes to making sure that everything's relevant within a demographic. So what we do is actually our hardest part, or my hardest part, is our ad campaigns. I'm the one who does all the social media. So I always run ads for everything. So for me, it's trying to make sure people even know about it. It's not necessarily like, will they show? They don't show if they don't know, but if they know, they show. So that's kind of the way of Red Jumpsuit, and always has been. Just trying to reach people and give them a heads up. Hey, we're going to be in, this is your last chance to see us this year, kind of deal. So I usually run ads, but your dollars can only go so far. The algorithm smashes everything, and it chooses what it thinks relevant. You can put in the targeting as much as you want, but it's still in control. So yeah, we try to advertise when our set times are, when we're going to be there, all that good stuff. So usually we'll have a good turnout for us regardless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys have had a following for a long time, a band for a long time, so people will pop out. But I do agree, and I think a lot of people, they have this idea that if they make good stuff, people just buy it or they'll just listen to it. And that's
Those
not
days are long
necessarily
gone.
the case. Yeah, you have to be
Yeah,
able to
those
get it
days
in
are
the
long
road.
gone.
Yeah. I mean, advertising is just all over the board these days. You can't just put ads into one space and expect it to reach everybody. You have to kind of continuously be telling people for an extended period of time. So I appreciate you guys sharing stuff about Reverb, because this is our first year having this music festival. Hopefully this becomes a big thing every year and we can bring you guys back, you know what I mean, year after year after year.
Yeah, I mean, with a fire lineup like that, I don't see how it's not going to be successful and become an annual.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I'm excited to see you guys. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. I'm going to head out now. I'll let you guys have the rest of your evening with the family. But I'll be seeing you on Saturday. And like I said, I think you guys are playing at 2, so I'm excited to see the performance.
Yep, we're playing right after Atari's.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Talk to you later.
Later.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.